The transport ship docked at Station Helix 9 with a soft hiss of pressure locks. Kira Vasquez stood at the viewing window and watched the massive structure grow larger. It was beautiful in a strange way. Curved metal arms stretched out like the petals of a flower. Lights blinked in patterns she did not understand. Thousands of ships moved around it like insects around a hive. She was 17 years old. She was alone, and she was very far from home. Earth was now just a small blue dot somewhere behind her. Her parents had cried when she left. Her younger brother had tried to act tough, but failed. Kira had promised them she would make them proud. She had promised herself she would not fail. The Galactic Unity Academy was the most famous school in the known galaxy. Students came from over 40 different species to study there. They learned science, politics, trade, and diplomacy. Graduates went on to become leaders, ambassadors, and pioneers. Getting accepted was almost impossible. Kira was one of only 12 humans ever admitted. The Academy had started a new program called the Cultural Exchange Initiative. The idea was simple. Humans were new to the galactic community. Most species did not trust them. Some were afraid of them. The program was meant to change that. Send young humans to study with aliens. Let them see that humans were not monsters. Kira had been chosen because of her grades and her calm nature. The selection committee had said she was a good example of humanity. Friendly, smart, not aggressive. She hoped they were right. The airlock opened and Kira stepped onto the station for the first time. The air smelled different here. It was clean but had a strange metallic taste. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth. She felt like she might float away if she jumped too high. All around her, aliens moved through the wide corridors. She saw creatures with scales and creatures with feathers. Some had 4 legs. Some had none at all and floated on invisible currents. Some were tiny, no bigger than her hand. Others were massive, towering over everyone else. And all of them looked at her. Kira felt their eyes. Dozens of different kinds of eyes. Some curious, some nervous, some hostile. Whispers followed her as she walked. Her translator implant picked up fragments. "Is that a human? Deathworlder, be careful. Look at its eyes, forward-facing. Predator eyes. I heard they can run for days without stopping. I heard they eat poison for fun." Kira kept her head down and kept walking. She had been warned about this. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy. Earth was classified as a Class 4 death world. That meant it was one of the most dangerous planets where intelligent life had ever evolved. The gravity was heavy. The weather was violent. The planet was covered with predators, parasites, and toxic plants. And somehow humans had not only survived there, they had thrived. They had built cities and conquered their world. They had reached into space. To most aliens, this was terrifying. How could any species survive a place like that? What kind of creatures could evolve on a world that seemed designed to kill everything? The answer was simple. Humans were tough. Humans were adaptable. Humans were very, very hard to kill. But Kira did not feel tough. She felt small and alone and scared. She found her dormitory room after getting lost twice. The room was simple. A bed that adjusted to her body shape. A desk with a computer terminal. A window that showed the stars outside. She sat on the bed and let out a long breath. This was her home now. For the next 4 years, this tiny room on a station far from Earth would be where she lived. She had to make it work. Classes started the next day. Kira discovered that she was good at some subjects and terrible at others. Galactic history was interesting but confusing. There were so many species and so many wars and so many treaties to remember. Mathematics was easy. Numbers were the same everywhere. Biology was hard because she had to learn about hundreds of different body types. She also discovered that making friends was difficult. Most students avoided her. They were polite but distant. They would answer her questions in class but would not sit with her at meals. They would work with her on projects but would not invite her to social events. She was always on the outside looking in. Some students were worse than polite. Some were openly hostile. Kira first noticed Vrenkal in her second week at the academy. He was impossible to miss. The Torvasian was over 7 feet tall with scales that shimmered between blue and green. He had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his face. His hands had 3 fingers each, tipped with claws that looked sharp enough to cut metal. When he walked, other students moved out of his way. Vrenkal came from one of the wealthiest families in the trade consortium. His father controlled shipping routes worth trillions of credits. His mother sat on the Galactic Unity Council. He had grown up with power and privilege. He had never been told no. At the academy, he was king. Everyone knew it. Everyone accepted it. He had a group of followers who went everywhere with him. They laughed at his jokes. They agreed with his opinions. They did whatever he told them to do. In exchange, he protected them and shared his wealth. Kira watched him from across the dining hall one evening. He was holding court at the best table. Aliens of several species surrounded him, hanging on his every word. He told a story and everyone laughed. He made a demand and someone rushed to obey. Then his four eyes found her. Kira looked away quickly. But it was too late. She had been noticed. Over the next few days, she felt him watching her. In class, in the corridors, in the library. Those four eyes tracked her movements. She did not know what he wanted. She did not want to find out. She tried to stay invisible. She sat in the back of classrooms. She ate her meals quickly and alone. She went to her room early and stayed there. But Vrenkal was patient. He was like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. He had chosen his prey. Now he was just waiting. Kira told herself she was being paranoid. She told herself that nothing would happen. She told herself that this was a school and she was safe here. She was wrong. The moment was coming, and when it arrived, nothing would ever be the same again. 3 weeks passed at the academy. Kira fell into a routine. Wake up. Go to class. Study. Eat alone. Sleep. Repeat. It was not exciting, but it was safe. She was learning a lot. Her grades were good. She told herself that was enough. But the shadow of Vrenkal hung over everything. He had not approached her yet. He had not spoken to her, but she knew he was planning something. She could feel it like a storm building on the horizon. Every day the pressure grew stronger. Every day the waiting became harder. Other students noticed too. They looked at her with something like pity in their eyes. They knew what was coming. They had seen it before. Vrenkal always picked a target. He always broke them eventually, and no one ever did anything to stop him. Kira thought about reporting him. But report what? He had not done anything yet. She thought about talking to a teacher. But Vrenkal's family was too powerful. No one would risk making them angry. She thought about hiding in her room and never coming out. But she knew that would not work either. So she waited, and she watched, and she prepared herself as best she could. The day it happened started like any other day. Kira woke up early. She exercised in her room. Humans needed more physical activity than most species. Their bodies were built for movement. Without exercise, they became restless and anxious. Kira did push-ups and sit-ups and stretches. It helped her stay calm. She went to her morning classes. Galactic politics was boring. The professor talked for 2 hours about trade agreements from 300 years ago. Kira took notes, but her mind wandered. She kept thinking about home, about her family, about the ocean near her house and the way the waves sounded at night. After class, she went to the recreation alcove. It was a large open space where students could relax between lessons. There were comfortable seats and game tables and screens showing news from across the galaxy. Usually it was crowded. Today it was almost empty. That should have been her first warning. Kira walked in and sat down in a corner. She took out her tablet and started reviewing notes for her next class. She was focused on her work. She did not notice the doors closing behind her. She did not notice the other students leaving quickly. She did not notice until it was too late. A shadow fell over her. She looked up. Vrenkal stood there. His 4 eyes stared down at her with cold amusement. His scales seemed darker than usual. Behind him stood 2 of his followers, a Drexy with gray skin and too many teeth, a Molthari covered in thick brown fur. Both were large. Both looked eager for violence. Kira's heart began to beat faster. She stood up slowly. Her tablet fell to the floor. "Human," Vrenkal said. His voice was deep and rough. The translator made it sound almost pleasant, but she could hear the contempt underneath. "We finally meet." Kira swallowed. Her throat felt dry. "I don't want any trouble," she said. Her voice came out steady. She was surprised by that. "Trouble?" Vrenkal made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I am not trouble. I am your superior, and you have forgotten your place." "My place?" "You sit in my study pod during afternoon sessions. You use my equipment in the laboratory. You breathe my air." He stepped closer. She could smell him now. Sulfur and something chemical. "And you have not paid respect." Kira understood then. This was not about anything she had done. This was about what she was. He wanted to dominate her. He wanted to prove that humans were nothing special. He wanted to show everyone that even the feared Deathworlders would bend to him. She thought about running. The door was behind him. His followers blocked the other exits. She thought about screaming for help. But who would come? She thought about begging. Maybe if she apologized for things she had not done, he would leave her alone. No, that would not work. Creatures like Vrenkal did not want apologies. They wanted fear. They wanted submission. And they never stopped until they got it. So Kira did the only thing she could. She stood her ground. "I don't know what you want from me," she said, "but I haven't done anything wrong. Let me pass." Vrenkal's neck frills flared outward. It was a threat display. Among Torvasians, it meant anger. It meant violence was coming. His followers shifted their weight, ready to move. Around them, a few students watched from doorways. Some held up devices, recording everything. No one tried to help. No one even called for security. They just watched like it was entertainment. Vrenkal leaned down. His face came close to hers. His breath was hot and smelled like rotting meat. She forced herself not to step back. "Deathworlders," he said the word like a curse. "Everyone is so afraid of you, so careful around you. They act like you are dangerous." He laughed again. "But I see the truth. I see what you really are." "And what is that?" Kira asked. "Nothing." He straightened up. "You are nothing. Small, weak, soft. You come from a hard world, but you are not hard. You are just survivors. Vermin who crawled out of the mud. And I will prove it." His hand moved fast, faster than she expected. The back of his clawed hand struck her face with a sharp crack. The blow knocked her sideways. She stumbled and caught herself on a chair. Pain exploded across her cheek. She tasted blood in her mouth. Her vision went blurry for a moment. She heard laughing. Vrenkal, his followers, maybe some of the watchers too. She touched her face. Her fingers came away red. The cut was not deep, but it was bleeding freely. Human blood was thin. It flowed easily. Something changed inside Kira in that moment. She had been afraid before. Now the fear was gone. In its place was something else. Something old. Something that had kept her ancestors alive for millions of years on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. Her heart was still beating fast. But now it was not fear driving it. It was something much more dangerous. Vrenkal was still laughing. He had already turned to his followers, celebrating his easy victory. He thought it was over. He thought he had won. He had no idea what was about to happen. Kira straightened up. She wiped the blood from her mouth, and deep in her brain, in a place that remembered being hunted by lions and wolves and worse things, a switch flipped. 10 seconds. That was all it would take. 10 seconds to change everything. Time is a strange thing. It does not always move at the same speed. Scientists know this. They have equations to describe it. But there is another kind of time change, one that happens inside the mind. When danger comes, when survival is at stake, the brain can make seconds feel like minutes. Everything slows down. Everything becomes clear. This is what happened to Kira. The first second began. Her body released chemicals into her blood. Adrenaline flooded her system like fire. Her heart pumped harder. Her muscles tightened. Her pupils grew wider to let in more light. Pain from the cut on her face faded to nothing. It was still there, but her brain decided it was not important anymore. Humans call this the fight or flight response. It is a gift from millions of years of evolution, a survival tool built into every cell. When a human faces true danger, their body transforms. They become faster, stronger, more focused than any normal moment allows. Most species in the galaxy do not have this. Their bodies do not change so quickly. They think and then act. Humans act and think at the same time. Vrenkal did not know this. He was about to learn. The second passed. Kira moved forward, not backward, not to the side, forward, toward the threat. This is what predators do. This is what humans have always done. When running is not an option, they attack. Vrenkal was still turning back to face her. He was still smiling. His brain had not yet understood that something was wrong. He thought the human girl would cry. He thought she would beg. He thought she would run. He was very wrong. The third second. Kira's hand shot out and grabbed Vrenkal's wrist. He looked down at her grip with confusion. Humans were supposed to be weak. That was what everyone said. Their bones were thin. Their muscles were small compared to their body size. But humans have something called grip strength. Their ancestors swung from trees. They used tools. They wrestled prey to the ground. A human hand can squeeze with over 50 kilograms of force. Vrenkel had never felt anything like it. The fourth second, Kira pulled. She did not pull straight back. She pulled sideways and down, using Vrenkal's own weight against him. This is called leverage. Humans discovered it thousands of years ago. They used it to move heavy stones and build pyramids. They used it in combat to defeat larger enemies. Physics does not care how big you are. Force times distance equals torque. Vrenkal was tall and heavy. That made him easy to unbalance. His body began to fall forward. The fifth second. Kira drove her knee upward. It connected with Vrenkal's face with a sound like breaking wood. His nose was not made of bone like a human nose. It was made of cartilage, harder but more brittle. It shattered on impact. Purple blood sprayed outward. Some of it landed on Kira's uniform. She did not notice. She was already moving to the next action. Vrenkal's nervous system was slower than a human's. The pain had not reached his brain yet. He did not know he was hurt. He did not know he was losing. His followers stood frozen. They could not process what they were seeing. The sixth second. Kira released his wrist and shifted her weight. She rotated her hips and brought her elbow around in a tight arc. The point of her elbow struck Vrenkal's throat just below where his jaw connected to his neck. The throat is weak on almost every species. Breathing tubes and blood vessels and nerve bundles all pass through a small space. Humans learned very early that hitting the throat ended fights quickly. They had been doing it to each other for thousands of years. Vrenkal's windpipe collapsed inward. The seventh second, Vrenkal dropped. His legs simply stopped holding him up. His brain had finally received the pain signals. All of them at once, broken face, crushed throat. His body went into shock. He hit the floor hard and curled into a ball. Purple blood pooled beneath him. His claws scraped against the metal floor as he tried to breathe and failed. Strange choking sounds came from his ruined throat. His four eyes were wide with an emotion he had never experienced before. Terror. Pure and complete terror. The eighth second. Kira turned to face the two followers. She did not run. She did not speak. She just looked at them. Her face was calm. Her breathing was steady. There was blood on her cheek and blood on her uniform, but she stood like a statue. Her eyes were the worst part. They were empty of anger, empty of fear, empty of everything except cold calculation. The Drexy made a small sound in the back of his throat. The Molthari took a step backward, then another. Then they both turned and ran. They did not look back. The ninth second. Kira looked down at Vrenkal. He was still on the floor, still trying to breathe, still bleeding. He looked up at her with those four eyes. He tried to speak, but only a wet, gurgling sound came out. She felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no anger. The adrenaline was still flowing. Her body was still in combat mode. She watched him like she might watch an insect, curious but detached. The students who had been watching were gone. Some had run, some were hiding. The corridor outside was empty except for echoes. The 10th second. Kira spoke. Her voice was steady and quiet. It filled the silence like a knife sliding into water. On my world, she said, we have a saying. Do not start fights you cannot finish. She looked at him for one more moment. Then she stepped over his body and walked toward the door. She did not hurry. She did not look back. Behind her, Vrenkal lay in a pool of his own blood. His claws still scraped weakly at the floor. His breath came in short, wet gasps. The great king of the academy, the unbeatable bully, the terror of 40 species, broken in 10 seconds by a small girl from a Deathworld. Medical alarms began to sound. Drones would come soon. Security would be called. There would be questions and consequences and chaos, but all of that was for later. Right now, in this moment, there was only silence. In the sound of Kira's footsteps walking away. The medical drones arrived 43 seconds after Kira walked away. They found Vrenkal on the floor in a pool of purple blood. He was still alive, but barely. His breathing was shallow and wrong. His face was destroyed. The drones worked quickly. They loaded him onto a hover stretcher and rushed him to the trauma bay. Doctors from 3 different species worked on him for 6 hours. They rebuilt his nose. They repaired his windpipe. They stopped the internal bleeding. When they were finished, they told the Academy officials that he would survive, but he would never be the same. The damage to his throat was too severe. He would need a machine to help him breathe for the rest of his life. The small device would be implanted in his neck. It would hum quietly forever, a constant reminder of 10 seconds in a recreation alcove. While the doctors worked, Kira sat in a small room near the security office. She had been taken there by guards who did not know what to do with her. They were afraid to touch her. They were afraid to get too close. They just pointed at a chair and asked her to wait. So she waited. Her face still had dried blood on it. Her uniform was stained purple and red. She should have been scared. She should have been worried about what would happen next. Instead, she felt empty. The adrenaline had faded. She just felt tired. She thought about her parents. She thought about how disappointed they would be. She had been sent here to show that humans could be peaceful, that they could fit into galactic society. Instead, she had put a wealthy alien son in the hospital in less time than it took to tie her shoes. She wondered if they would send her home. The door opened. An official entered. He was a Velith, a species with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. He wore the formal robes of a legal arbiter. His face showed no emotion as he sat down across from her. Kira Vasquez, he said, human, Earth origin, student in the Cultural Exchange Initiative. Yes, she said. You are aware of what happened today? Yes. Do you have anything to say? Kira thought about this. There were many things she could say. She could apologize, she could explain, she could beg for mercy. But none of those things felt right, so she just told the truth. He hit me first. I defended myself. The Velith nodded slowly. The recordings confirm this. Recordings. Of course. The students with their devices. Kira had forgotten about them. She wondered how bad the footage looked. She wondered how many people had already seen it. There will be a tribunal tomorrow, the Velith said. Representatives from 12 species will review the evidence and make a decision. Until then, you will remain in your quarters. Do you understand? Yes, Kira said. She was escorted back to her room. The corridors were empty. Everyone had heard what happened. Everyone was hiding. She walked in silence and closed her door and sat on her bed and waited for tomorrow. The next day came too quickly. The tribunal was held in a large circular room. 12 representatives sat in a curved row, each one from a different species. Kira stood in the center facing them. She felt very small. The evidence was presented first. Multiple recordings from different angles. They showed everything. Vrenkal approaching her, his words, the strike, and then the 10 seconds that followed. The representatives watched in silence. Some of them looked away during the violent parts. Others leaned forward with strange expressions. When the footage ended, no one spoke for a long moment. Then the accusations came. Vrenkal's family had hired advocates, expensive ones. They argued that Kira had used excessive force. They argued that humans were too dangerous to be allowed at the academy. They demanded punishment, expulsion, imprisonment, exile. The human clearly intended to kill, one advocate said. Look at her face in the recording. There is no emotion, no hesitation. She attacked like a machine, like a weapon. This is not self-defense. This is attempted murder. Kira listened to all of it. She did not interrupt. She did not argue. She just stood and waited. When the advocates finished, the Velith arbiter spoke. We have reviewed the evidence carefully, he said. The recordings are clear. Vrenkal initiated physical contact. Under galactic unity law, the human responded with proportional force. The advocates erupted in protest. Proportional? The Torvasian was in the hospital. He would breathe through a machine forever. How was that proportional? The arbiter raised his hand for silence. Proportionality is measured by intent and threat, not by outcome, he said. Vrenkal struck the human with intent to harm and intimidate. The human responded to end the threat. She did not pursue him after he fell. She did not attack his companions. She walked away. He paused and looked at Kira. The human showed restraint. She could have killed him. She did not. The tribunal finds no violation of Academy rules or galactic unity law. Silence filled the room. Kira was free. No punishment, no expulsion. She could return to her classes and continue her studies. The case was closed. But nothing was really the same after that. The recordings spread across the station within hours. Within days, they reached the wider galactic networks. Billions of beings watched a small human girl destroy a Torvasian bully in 10 seconds. The reactions were mixed. Some species were horrified. They called for humans to be restricted, monitored, kept away from normal society. Others were impressed. They watched the footage again and again, studying her movements, analyzing her technique. And some were something else entirely, something like respect. Because the truth was now clear for everyone to see. Humans were not just survivors. They were not just tough. They were predators, apex predators. The most efficient violence machines the galaxy had ever seen. And the most terrifying part, they chose not to use it. Every day they chose peace. They chose kindness. They chose to walk softly even though they could destroy anything in their path. Kira returned to classes. She sat in her usual seat. She took her usual notes. But everything was different now. The other students looked at her with new eyes, not with fear, with understanding. They finally knew what humans really were. Something changed at the Galactic Unity Academy after that day. It was not sudden, it was not obvious, but it was real. No one bullied Kira again. That was expected. But what surprised her was that no one bullied any human again. The other 11 human students at the academy reported the same thing. The harassment stopped. The whispers stopped. The fear stopped. In its place was something new. Curiosity. Students started approaching Kira. Not to threaten her, not to mock her. They came with questions. They wanted to understand. Is it true that your species hunted prey by chasing it until it died from exhaustion? A young Velith asked one day in the library. Yes, Kira said. We call it persistence hunting. Our ancestors would follow animals for days. We cannot run fast like other predators, but we can run far. Farther than almost any creature on our planet. The Velith's large eyes grew even larger. Days. You would chase food for days. Sometimes, we evolve to sweat. It cools our bodies. Other animals overheat and collapse. We just keep going. Another student joined the conversation, then another. Soon there was a small group gathered around her table. They asked about Earth, about oceans and mountains and storms, about the creatures that shared the planet with humans, about the wars humans had fought against each other. Kira answered everything honestly. She did not hide the dark parts. She told them about weapons and violence and the terrible things humans had done throughout history. But she also told them about art and music and love, about hospitals and charities and people who dedicated their lives to helping others. We are not perfect, she said. We have done terrible things, but we also try to be better. Every generation, we try to be a little more kind. The students listened. They thought about what she said, and slowly, very slowly, they began to see humans differently. Months passed. Kira continued her studies. Her grades improved. She made friends. Real friends, not just polite acquaintances. A Velith named Tyr, a small, furry creature called Meek, who came from a low-gravity world. Even a young Torvasian named Shalvek, who happened to be Vrenkal's cousin. Shalvek was the hardest friendship to build. He approached her one day near the end of her second year. He stood far away, keeping distance between them. His 4 eyes would not meet hers. I want to apologize, he said, for my family, for what Vrenkal did to you, for what my people have said about yours. Kira studied him. He seemed sincere. He seemed ashamed. You did not do anything wrong, she said. You do not need to apologize for someone else's actions. But I did do something wrong, he said. I did nothing. I knew what Vrenkal was like. I knew he would hurt you. And I said nothing. I did nothing to warn you or stop him. Kira thought about this. It was true, but holding on to anger would not help anyone. Then learn from it, she said. Next time, do something. Next time, be braver. Shalvek nodded slowly. I will try. From that day forward, he sat with her group at meals. He studied with them. He defended humans when others spoke against them. It was a small thing, but small things add up. In her third year, Kira was invited to give a lecture to the xenobiology department. She stood in front of 100 students from dozens of species. Her heart was pounding, but she did not let it show. She talked about Earth. She showed images on the big screen. A hurricane seen from space, a lion hunting zebras, a forest fire spreading across mountains, a shark rising from dark water. This is where we come from, she said, a world that tried to kill us every single day. The air is full of particles that cause disease. The water hides things with teeth. The ground shakes and opens up. The sky throws lightning and spawns tornadoes. She changed the image. Now it showed a human city, tall buildings reaching toward the sky, millions of people living together. But we did not just survive, she said. We built this. We created civilizations. We made art and music. We developed medicine and science. We reached into space. Another image, a human child playing with a dog, a wolf that had been changed over thousands of years into a companion and friend. We tamed the predators that hunted us. We made them part of our families, not through cruelty, through patience and kindness, through understanding. The audience was silent. We are not cruel by nature, Kira said, but we will protect ourselves. We will protect those we love, and we will always, always get back up. She looked across the faces watching her. She saw fear and wonder and respect and something like hope. We are here now, in your galaxy, in your schools, in your stations, in your worlds. We are not here to conquer. We are not here to destroy. We are here to learn, to grow, to become part of something bigger than ourselves. She paused and smiled. Just, maybe do not hit us. We have very old instincts. Some students laughed. Others just nodded. Kira graduated with the highest honors the Academy could give. She was the first human to receive the Unity Medal for Excellence. Her parents cried when they heard the news. Her brother finally admitted he was proud of her. She returned to Earth for a short visit. She walked on the beach near her old home and felt the sand between her toes. She breathed the heavy air and listened to the violent waves. For the first time, she understood why this place seemed so terrifying to others. She had never noticed before. It was just home. Then she left again. She accepted a position as a human ambassador to the outer colonies. She traveled to worlds she had never imagined. She met species that had never seen a human before. And everywhere she went, she heard the same thing. A new saying that was spreading across the galaxy. It appeared on trading posts and space stations and distant outposts. People whispered it to each other when they met humans for the first time. Be kind to humans. They are kind by choice, not by nature. Kira heard these words and smiled. It was not exactly right. Humans were kind by nature too, but they were also other things. They were complicated. They were contradictions. They were the product of a world that forged them in fire and blood and endless struggle, and they had chosen to use that forging for good. Somewhere far away on a station called Helix 9, a Torvasian named Vrenkal sat alone in his room. A machine hummed in his throat. He breathed in, he breathed out. He remembered a small human girl and the 10 seconds that changed his life. He never bullied anyone again. And across the stars, humanity continued to grow, to learn, to become part of the galactic community, not as monsters, not as weapons, but as friends. It was what they had always wanted. It was what they deserved.